Alright, so excuse my kind of messy handwriting, but this should say easier backtracking part 2. Okay, so alright, let's look at some other kind of typical questions. So this is number 1 on page 32 in your course back. So number 1 is 6 equals a over 4 plus 2. Alright, so my typical students, let me make that clear that that's an A. Okay, my typical students that I have, they don't often like this type of thing. They don't like fractions a whole lot. My forward backward gives me a chance to kind of think about this in a different way, and to kind of turn at least some fractions into just a kind of sequence of easy integer operations. So in this case, I'm just going to do this example. You can look at the other videos for the theory behind this, but what am I going to do first? Well, I'm going to think about what happens if I plug in a value for A. If I plug in, say, 12 for A, what would I do first? Well, I would do my 12 divide 4, right? If I'm evaluating, I do 12 divide 4. And that's what I would do first. Yeah, I'm going to start right there and work forward. 12 divided 4 is 3. And then I add 2 and I get 5. All right, and that's just an example of I could pick any number to evaluate for A. Always what am I going to do if I'm going forward? I'm going to, first I would divide 4 and then add 2. If this were an expression I were evaluating. Okay, so I'm going to go backward now. Okay, so backward is we're going to take these guys and we're going to invert them. So now instead of my add 2, I'm going to subtract 2. Instead of my divide 4, I've got a times 4. So then I'm going to apply the steps. So 6 minus 2 is going to give me a 4. Times 4 is 16, and we're done. So does that work? Well, 16, if I plugged it back in, 16 divided 4 is 4. 4 plus 2 is 6, so that checks out. Okay, nice. Here, let's try another one that students sometimes don't like, the traditional way. So say this. So negative 1 equals 5 plus x over 6. So, okay, so I'm going to write out my forward backward here, my steps. So just forward, and again, what would I do if I evaluated? So if I put this in here, now, there's a kind of implied parentheses up here. Sometimes people get confused with the, and rightly so, actually, right? There's some actually kind of things in here that are a little subtle about this that you might not expect. But basically here, if I'm going in order this way for my evaluating, I guess I should multiply divide after, there aren't any parentheses, so I'm not worried about that, but maybe I should do this first and try and divide by 6. So I think people know, if I put a 7 in there, I would not try and divide it by 6 first. I would first add 5. So what is going on there? There's a kind of implied parentheses here that people don't write. They do the top first. So it's best to kind of just think, what would happen if you plugged in? What would happen if I put a 7 in there? First thing I would do is I would add 5. And the second thing I would do would be divide 6. And then reversing it, I've got times 6 and then minus 5. So I've got a negative 1 times 6 is negative 6. And then I take away 5, and I've got a negative 11. Alright, gosh, say I'm not sure that works. Should I go crying to my teacher and ask them, is it right? No, I should plug it back in and see, does the thing work? So I'm going to take out my scientific calculator again. You don't need one as fancy as this. You can just look. And basically, we're just going to take this expression on the right side and say, does that negative 11 work in there? So I've got parentheses. Now, that's because I wanted to do the top first. So 5. And I'm going to put that negative 11. I'm just going to copy it right where that x is. So plus negative 11. I'm going to copy that negative 11 into there. Good. And then I divide 6. So that's kind of what this statement is going to look like on the right when I plug that negative 11 in. Okay, and then is this going to work? It does work, right? That's what I wanted. It gave me that side I wanted. And you kind of see it's going to work. 5 plus negative 11, I do that first. I get negative 6. Negative 6 divided by 6 is negative 1. So that's it for this video. These are some, it's kind of still relatively easy backtracking, but just to kind of get used to this method. And a lot of students with questions like this really like this as a way to tackle this kind of thing. Okay, thank you.